Hey, everybody, welcome into Life with Greg on this. It is Thursday night, and I'm so thrilled because I have a very special guest tonight. She is a certified coach, she is an entrepreneur, and also a corporate trainer. I'm so happy to have Sophia Casey with me tonight. How's it going?
Oh, it's going so well. I am so grateful to be here.
So good to be talking with you. First off, how are you doing? COVID-19, we're almost a year in. How are you coping with
Ooh,
everything?
I tell you, it's a roller coaster. And I think the reason that I'm doing well right now, I feel like I can really say I'm doing well. And I
Mhm.
answer that question like moment by moment. So in this moment, I'm doing well. I think a big contributor to that is I was traveling a lot before, the COVID shutdown, about 65% of the month. And so I,
Mhm.
I think my body was just like, look, you needed this rest. So it's been good not to be doing so much traveling, but also just staying in close contact with my family and friends and my good girlfriends and having some laughs and, just being honest with each other about what we're going through and just getting a lot of support. So, yeah.
When I think about the work you've been doing, I consider you a boss because you have just been working so hard and helping so many people when it comes to leadership. When you think about leadership, what does leadership mean to you?
Oh my gosh, leadership, it has a different definition for me now, post the COVID shutdown and civil unrest and all the things that we've been experiencing over the last year. And so, I had a totally different definition where I was a leader in the public sector. But now I say, leadership, first and foremost, to me means honesty, and it means my willingness to practice vulnerability.
Wow. A lot of
Yeah.
people are doing a lot of things, are juggling a lot of tasks these days. So for people who are out there who are trying to, tighten up their leadership skills, what are some of the top tips you have to help people to be a better leader?
I would say, first and foremost, connection, like authentic connection. I can imagine that like leaders like myself are experiencing so much in their organizations with their employees going through so many challenges, right? So just to be willing to be connected with them, like authentically connected with your employees, being willing to listen, right? And not come from a place of like, oh, I've been a leader for a while, I know how this works. And applying your same formula. Like we need to create a new formula for leadership.
And
Yeah.
also, when you talk about leadership and being that person that can listen, how important is it to listen? Because a lot of times, a lot of people may say, I'm going to do it my way, and you're going to have to get on board. But why is it so important to have those conversations and also just talking to people?
I think it's crucial. It's imperative that we as leaders be willing to listen to our employees, and not just our employees, but also our peers, our colleagues, other people, mentors, because we are operating our leadership in a new normal. No one can say they've ever been here at this point in time before. Yes, we've had other pandemics. Yes, people have experienced other challenges and circumstances, but none of us can say we've actually experienced the exact thing that we're going through now. And so, as a leader, we want to make sure that we are valuing what other people say, their opinions, their outlooks, and not, like I said, not just our employees, but also side by side, and also our mentors and our superiors as well.
You do a lot of speaking engagements. You do a lot of, corporate meetings. For people that are watching tonight, what has been some of the biggest things you've seen, some of the biggest mistakes people make when it comes to being in leadership that you say over and over again?
I'm thinking about my former colleagues. Are like, oh, don't ask her that. But I would say some of the biggest mistakes that I've seen leaders make are coming into a conversation like I know it all. I
Mhm.
know it all. I have the answer. And like I said before, I have the formula. I've been through this before. And even if though you've had experiences or similar experiences, does not mean that you've experienced that particular circumstance or challenge. So that's one thing I would say. The other thing I would say, a big mistake that I've seen many, many times in my several decades of being a leader, and also being an executive coach and a facilitator and consultant in many leadership organizations, is also not having balance at the table.
Mm.
So not having a diversity of voices. So a lot of times when we think about diversity, we think about diversity and inclusion, we're thinking about racial diversity, racial inclusion, but I mean a diversity in thought, a diversity in experience. I've been a part of conversations with, around the conference table or around the boardroom table, where I've been able to bring in my experiences as growing up in South Central LA. And then actually, growing up on the West Coast, growing up on the East, and then working on the East Coast. Those are experiences that I could bring to the conversation. And I think a lot of times as leaders of organizations, we shoot ourselves in the foot by not having all those conversations happening and listening to a diversity of input.
When you talk about diversity, the past year, a lot of people have been talking about diversity across the country and the world. Can you elaborate a little bit about, for those people out there who are in those leadership positions, how important it is to have people, whether it's gender or, racial, making sure everything is equally spread out to show that diversity?
Yes, it's critical because, like, look at our world, and not even just our country, look at our globe. Our globe is diverse. So how could we not have a diversity of voice and opinion and experiences when we're actually creating organizations or expanding organizations or making like really crucial decisions for our organizations? I feel like it's imperative. Absolutely.
When you think about your life, you've gone through some challenges yourself. And just nearly 4 years ago, in July 2017, you went through a challenge and it led you to write one of your first few books. So can you tell us a little bit about, that challenge and how did you get through that journey?
Yeah, so yes, in July of 2017, unfortunately, my husband, while he was at work and on FaceTime with me, because he was on a break, he suffered from seizures, a stroke, unfortunately went into a coma, and then when he was rushed to the hospital, a brain tumor was discovered. We've been through quite a bit,
When you
quite a
think
bit.
about the past nearly 4 years, what has been the thing to get you through, along with you guys having a child?
Certainly, yes. Josh certainly helps us get through it, and his antics and just watching him go through the rites of passage of being a teenager and growing into a man. But also what's helped me, certainly my faith. I was raised by a family of ministers. They keep teasing me and telling me that I'm one. And I'm like, no, I don't think I am. But, so leaning on my faith, they taught me that. But also, I tell you, my friends are family. So when I say family has certainly supported me, I mean my friendships. I've been very fortunate to get a lot of friends or create a lot of friendships from work. A lot of my coworkers, when I worked for the former Vice President of the United States, we became very, very close. And so I leaned on them quite a bit, maybe sometimes a little too much, but they didn't complain. But also what really helped me is, believe it or not, when my husband was going through all of this, and he's still going through a lot, we still have some gaps, certainly. But as he was in the hospital, I kept thinking that my head was spinning with so many things, like, what do I do? What decisions? Can you imagine how many decisions had to be made? And so while I was there in the hospital with him, no kidding, I literally created my first book, which is the Ease and Flow Journal, because I had all these journals. I love to journal. I'm one of those stacks. Okay. Don't judge me. Okay. But I needed some place to put all of these thoughts and these concerns and questions that I had. And so I literally sat there with my computer and I said, what is it that I need right now? And I'm prayerful that what I create from what I need, other people will benefit from it too. And that's what I keep hearing about that book a lot.
And when you were going through all of this, and when I was reading up on you before tonight, you actually were on FaceTime with your husband
Yes.
at the time all of this first happened. What was
Yeah.
going through your mind as a wife, a mother, to see your husband going through this and you're not even there?
And I'm not even there. So, my friends and former colleagues have all teased me and called me Grace under pressure. And I just, everybody copes with, trauma and things differently. For me, what typically happens is that I get really calm, like instantly calm. And that's what happened that day. In that moment, I got instantly calm. And all I kept thinking about is he needs me to be calm because right now he's confused. And I could see the fear on his face too. And so while his colleagues in there were assisting him, I stayed on the phone with him and just kept talking to him as I'm getting in the car and getting our son ready to go up and meet him. Absolutely.
And so when you went through that, you wrote this book, Ease and Flow. What do you hope people take away from that book?
Oh my gosh, it's a opportunity for people to do just what I did. Take all the stuff that's in your head and put it down on paper. I relate to it as like a safe and sacred space for you to put your thoughts down. But like I said, I'm a journal junkie, so I had tons of journals. But what I found is that journals just had blank pages, and at that time, with all the pressure that I was under and all the things that I was going through, I said, I'm going to need somebody to ask me some questions to at least, get those creative thoughts and things flowing. And so the Ease and Flow Journal has some really key questions to ask each person who uses it around their boundaries. And how are you going to hold your boundaries as sacred? How are you going to take care of yourself? What's in your head right now? Get that stuff down. Just get it down and make yourself a list. And so what I've been told is that it's been very, very supportive of people. And I'm so grateful that it's also in the hands of a lot of members of nonprofit organizations. I've been very, very happy about that.
And the really cool thing is you've been so busy. You've written books, you've been speaking, and everything else that you've been going on. Where in the world did you find time to write a novel?
Right. I actually, a lot of people, and let me say this. Fierce Vulnerability, A Color Girl's Truths, Trials, and Triumphs is about 4 fluent Black women on the DC political scene. And one of the characters is running for political office. So a lot of people think I just wrote this because of Kamala Harris and our V POTUS. No, I actually wrote this book 4 years ago. But remember what happened 4 years ago for my family. So I literally stopped everything. I stopped my businesses. I stopped writing. So I actually finished the book 4 years ago. But, because everything happened with my husband, I didn't publish it at the time. And so I didn't have to work too hard to find time to publish it because for the most part, it was already complete.
Yeah. So speaking of this book coming out, this book came out before the election in November. So yes. In November, when Kamala Harris became the VP elect at the time, what was that like for you, considering you also worked with former Vice President Al Gore with the First Impressions Task Force, and then you've been in the inner workings of DC, and to see this happen, what was that like for you? Did you ever think it would happen in your lifetime to see a woman of color?
Honestly, I always had hope. I always had hope. And of course, having President Barack Obama actually be the first African-American to hold that office gave me a lot of hope. But I was still holding that torch up for women, because I believe that women have such a unique gift to bring to the whole political conversation. So let's just say I was really excited. I've been teased about it. I was very excited about that. And not just because there is a woman in the second highest position in our land, but also a woman of color. And I know how important that is. Certainly important for me, but I know how important it is for my 9-year-old niece to be able to see herself reflected in such a high office. So understatement would be to say I was very excited. I'm very excited.
When you look at the moment that she took the oath of office just almost a month ago, what did that mean for you? And not only just for you, but you as a woman, to see so many little girls. I was looking online on social media. You see these little girls standing there when she was taking the oath of office, holding their hand up, or putting their hand to the television as if they were touching her hand. What did that mean to you as a female, a woman of color, to see these young girls, even your niece, to have someone to look up to?
Yes, it meant everything to me. It meant everything to me. You know, it had me reflect back to when I was a little girl, and the role models that I had. You know, I certainly had a lot of role models, a lot of women, a lot of women of color for sure. Shout out to all the matriarchs in my family. I had some great role models, but at the same time, when I turned on the television, I didn't see me so much reflected, right? When I went to college, I didn't see me so much reflected in terms of like who our professors were and even who the fellow students were, right?
Mhm.
I went to UCLA as an undergrad, and there was a very small percentage of African American students there at the time. So I was so excited because I kept thinking about my nieces and my nephews and my son, thinking
Mhm.
about my son and having conversations with him. And he was so excited because, of course, he lives with me. So he hears a lot about women's empowerment, but he was so excited and he got how important of a monumental event that was. So yeah, I was thrilled, and I'm still floating. I'm still floating. I said, no, it's still the inauguration. I'm still marinating in all of it. And I love how that it's opened up so
Mhm.
many conversations for in education. You know, so now I've actually used, you know, stories about our vice president, Harris, for my son's studies because I'm a homeschool mom too, on top of everything else. But yeah, I've been able to use some of her background and have my son do some essays around her and learn about her work as an attorney and all of that. It's been incredible.
When you look at the title of your book,
Mm.
Fierce Vulnerability, I have to ask you, why do you believe leaders struggle with vulnerability?
Oh yes, I believe leaders, all of us struggle with
Mhm.
vulnerability, but certainly leaders in particular, because of the way that we are socialized. You know, I've been a trainer for a long time. I've done a lot of corporate training. I love it. It is my zone of genius to do corporate training. And in my work, you know, I was part of the problem in that I would teach leadership development the way that I was taught in a specific way, that you lead from a hierarchical standpoint, like I'm in charge of you. So I have more value in the conversation than you do. And I say, you know, fierce vulnerability, when I think about fierce vulnerability in leadership, what it could look like is, yes, I'm making sure that I'm mitigating risk. I'm making sure that I have all the leadership core competencies. I have business acumen. I have great communication skills. But at the same time, I'm empathetic. I have high emotional intelligence. I make sure that I hear the voices of a diverse group of people before making decisions. So I think a lot of times leaders don't want to practice that level of vulnerability because we were taught that that meant weakness.
Mhm.
Weakness. Now, would you ever see a leader, a manager? I work with a lot of C-suite executives. Would you ever see them cry in a meeting if they were moved to tears? Probably not.
Mhm.
And so I'm not saying that everybody has to go to work tomorrow and start crying in the conference room, but what I am suggesting is that we are willing as leaders to pull the wall down just a bit and connect with people soul to soul and heart to heart. I believe it's imperative for us to be able to lead in this new normal.
And when you see people connect, how have you seen
Oh,
those connections, especially coming from leaders? How
yes.
do you see that help their employees or help their staff members, whoever, to have more of a positive feel when they're at work or in that environment?
Yeah, I think and I've seen it a lot. I've worked with some incredible leaders,
Mhm.
but I would say one of the things that's really valuable about a leader really showing up fiercely vulnerable and being willing to be vulnerable is that it actually can give their employees permission to do the same, to show up
Mhm.
vulnerably and to balance fierceness with vulnerability. It actually can invite the employees to say, oh my gosh, okay, this person's normal. They're not
Mhm.
way up here. They're not so different from me. And so I feel comfortable going in there and sharing my ideas of how we can actually implement a new project or a new program to maybe have a really huge positive impact on this organization. And a lot of times when we as leaders aren't willing to show that side of us, it could cut off communication.
Wow. When you think about your life and your career, you have been an educator in the classroom. You
Yes.
spent many years teaching. You worked in the White House, the Clinton White House, with former Vice President Al Gore. You're a coach now. You're an entrepreneur, corporate trainer. You've done so many amazing things in your life. When you, as a woman, to other women out there who are watching, who want to perhaps venture out and do something else, what was the leap of faith that you took to venture out from education, something that you had known your
Oh,
whole time? You've been doing education, and all of a sudden you venture out and do something else.
yes, I say I started when I was 12 because my aunts were educators. And so I would, be in the classroom with them after school, cutting out things. They were putting me to work. But what I would say is one of the biggest contributors to me stepping out and saying, I love education, but I'm going to go try some other things too, is not to relate to it as so different. That's the thing. It wasn't so different. Take the skills that I already had in terms of being a successful school teacher, take those skills, that skill set, and go use it at the White House. I used it a lot. I tell you, if you're an educator and you have one of the skills you have is patience, you would need that in the White House too, for sure. So yeah, to use your same skills, not to think that you have to reinvent the wheel or start over. I support a lot of people also around pivoting in their career and using what they already have, Absolutely. And I would also say mentorship, important.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also, you're not just any type of coach, you're a certified coach. And, a lot of times with certifications, you can, go online for a couple hours and take a class or whatever, and you're done. You went through a very rigorous process. So what's different about your process as
Yeah.
a coach?
I actually went through a year-long program, and rigorous was an understatement. I'm what's called an ontological coach. I was trained to be an ontological coach, which means I'm certainly supporting the client around goal setting and moving their goal forward. But at the same time that I'm doing that, I'm also asking, well, how is Greg being about those goals? Does he believe that they're even possible? So a lot of work around mindset as well. But I will tell you that, yes, definitely a rigorous program. But, I am so grateful for it. And I do see all those programs, as you mentioned, that are $25 for, 2 hours, and you're a certified coach. And what I express to people all the time, I mentor hundreds of coaches. I have mentored hundreds of coaches. And what I share with them all the time is there is value in actually going further than just getting that certificate, but actually getting certified and going even further and becoming credentialed by the International Coach Federation. I believe it's what we have to do in order to be able to lead in this new normal.
As we're wrapping up tonight, when you look back over your career so far, I've always been taught you got to have, multiple streams of income. And looking at your bio, you have multiple streams of income. And when you think about that, and for other people watching tonight, if they want to have those multiple streams of income coming in, why is that so important? And how has that been beneficial to Sophia?
Absolutely. Years ago when I was starting in my career, when I was starting in my business, it was a nice to have. I kind of related to it. I started my first business. I think my first business was probably a lemonade stand or supporting my mom with Avon, selling Avon. I don't remember what it was, but I related to business or having your own business, like, oh, that's an extra thing that you do. That's a hobby that you do. And so I'm so grateful that I understand, no, it's not a hobby. I feel like in the times that we find ourselves in now, we want to be creative. And I believe having multiple streams of income is us being creative. And I feel like now it's actually crucial that we have multiple streams of income. Many of us saw, our world literally turn around and upside down in a blink of an eye when COVID-19 and the shutdown happened. And so many of us, a lot of my clients really struggled with challenges around how do I change my business in a way to make something that was in person all the time, me included, and now going predominantly to a virtual environment. So because I had other streams of income, I say it just helps with cash flow so that you're not like completely depleted, so that your mind can continue to be creative and actually create new opportunities for yourself.
And we talked a little bit about this earlier, but as we wrap up, your son, how has motherhood changed you as a person?
Oh, Greg, it's my most proud role. As you said, I wear a lot of hats, but I am most proud of that title, to be his mom. I'm Josh's bonus mom. I actually married a single father, so he's my bonus son, and he completely changed my life. Children are unfiltered. And so, growing up with a mom as a coach, you can imagine, he's learned a lot about coaching and about asking open-ended questions and being vulnerable and being willing to ask whatever question is on your heart. And he's taught me a lot by doing that it's okay. It's actually a great thing to be inquisitive. And I tell him all the time, I'm learning from him. I'm totally learning from him. Not those video games. I'm not there. Not.
I totally understand. I'm not a video game person. My nephew, he loves them, but I'm not that person.
I'm trying. I'm working on it, Greg.
And also, if you can describe yourself, what have you learned about COVID? Since COVID-19 happened back in March, we've all been home. It's changed our whole way of life. What have you learned about yourself during this time?
What I've learned so much, but I'll say in a nutshell that I've learned that it's okay to take a swing. It's okay to try something. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Guess what? I get to try something else and something else and something else. I've also learned the value of connection and like how important it is for us as human beings to have connection. It's what we took for granted. I certainly took it for granted. And now that we're in our homes and not always able to see each other in person, I'm deepening my connections with friends and family members on a different level than I ever have before. I've also learned, and last thing I'll say is I've also learned the value of practicing vulnerability, like being willing to say to my colleagues and to my family and my friends, like, I'm hurting right now. I'm grieving right now. This is tough for me right now. And being willing to have conversations and hear from them what they're going through too. Not from a place of like, oh, I can fix it all, but just being willing to have the conversation. And so one of the great things that's happening in my life right now is every Friday, a group of my girlfriends, we get together and we have our Friday girlfriend happy hour just to connect and just to share what we're going through and how we're feeling about all of it. And a whole lot of laughter too. Lots of laughter, yeah.
So how are y'all doing this happy hour? Is it in person, Zoom, or?
Now it's Zoom, and it's so much fun. It's so much fun. And the great thing about it is I'm the youngest one. Like, I never consider myself young, but I'm the youngest one. And so not only am I having a good time and laughing and we're having our wine and everything, but also I'm being schooled. I am being schooled and taught a whole lot. Absolutely. So, and it's been wonderful. Wonderful.
Sophia, I really appreciate you talking to me tonight. Also, go to her website, sophiacasey.net. Right now, you can get her books. You can look at some other. So you got shirts and all types of stuff on here. I can't talk right here. So for people that are watching tonight, with the books and everything, anything else you want to say? Final thoughts. Also, your social media pages.
Oh yeah, so I'm Coach Sophia Casey, or Sophia Casey everywhere on every social media platform. Really happy about this new Clubhouse platform, but that's another story for another time. But so yes, you can find me anywhere as Sophia Casey or Coach Sophia Casey, and of course, as you said, my website is sophiacasey.net. I would love to connect with you.
Sounds good. I really appreciate you talking to me tonight, and it's been a pleasure. And we were going to do this on Sunday, but we moved it to Thursday because I forgot it was a Super Bowl.
Hello. Oh, and you know what? You have good taste in football teams. I did notice.
I do?
Yes.
I play it well because I fake it on TV.
Look, I saw your face like, wait, what?
No, for real. No, for real. Seriously, I'm from Alabama. I'm only an Auburn fan because my dad's an Auburn fan. But
Yes.
I know zilch about sports. My best friend works at ESPN, and whenever I need to know something, I'll call her. I'm like, hey, what's going on? Who should I put on my what is it? The fantasy, the board that they do in March Madness. That's what it is.
The much that well, I will echo that. You play it well.
I just put myself on Front Street.
You're doing
Sophia,
good.
thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm so grateful, Greg. Great talking to you.
Good talking to you as well. Have a good night, everybody.